The emergence of new underground factions is causing a lot of worry to business owners due to multiple taxations. In this regard, the Confederation of Nagaland Chamber of Commerce and Industries held a press conference yesterday in which they spoke about streamlining the taxation process for the factions. We'll have a look at the bite.
As we all know, the factions have been growing over the years. And especially again last 3-4 years, the faction has grown so much that today we have about 18 factions functioning, I think existence of 18 factions in Nagaland. And more or less almost all the factions are collecting taxes in various forms. Upon that, the worst affected issue is again the multiple taxation by various individual groups. When I'm saying that, for example, a particular faction will tax the transporter which brings my product, again tax in my godown, tax in my sales outlet. So a particular faction tax multiple times. So what happens is 18 factions plus multiple tax, then it becomes too unbearable for the business community to survive.
Well, now to talk a little more on this taxation, especially happening in Nagaland, we've got our associate editor Alanguli, who's going to be joining us on this News Hour bulletin, and he'll be speaking more on what this taxation process means in Nagaland and also how the Confederation of Nagaland Chamber of Commerce and Industries can safeguard business owners. So we'll connect right through him. So hi sir. The Confederation of Nagaland Chamber of Commerce and Industries held a press conference yesterday, and in which they have admitted that there are new factions, and with new faction increases the new taxation whole policy. Right. So, sir, how will this CNCCI, the conference that they made yesterday, they even spoke about streamlining the taxation process for all factions. So, is this a positive sign, or is this somewhat of a sign that says like, yes, we have to live with double taxation?
Yeah, Kivi, I don't really understand the language that was used by the Confederation here. When we are talking of streamlining, yes, we are basically talking about legislated, constitutional, yes, organizations and establishments, and no disrespect to the Naga nationalist organizations here, but we can talk about streamlining the Department of Education. We can talk about streamlining the way the finance department works. Yes. We can streamline transport services in the state, but we are talking about a very unique and peculiar aspect of the Naga socio-political system, that is the so-called taxation system. Now, we have to understand this, Akivi, it's in the language here. When we are talking of taxes, we are talking about something that is very legitimate, yes, that is constitutional, and that is levied only by recognized political institutions. Yes. So in this case, we are talking about taxes that can only be levied by, let's say, the government of Nagaland, yes, the government of India, and let's say the United States of America, the UK Parliament. So these are recognized constitutional entities that have been empowered with the power to levy taxes. But here in Nagaland, by the way, how many Naga political groups do we have today, Akivi? I think it's about 12, right?
No, sir. According to the CNCCI, they have mentioned that around 18 groups, sir.
18, yeah, that's, I think, the nationalist industry in Nagaland is booming actually. So I think I remember those days we had about 2 or 3 of them. The FGN was there, the NSNIM was there, the NSNK was there, 3. But now you tell me we have got about 18, so I think we are in trouble. Yes. So anyway, when we are talking of taxes, we are talking about an aspect of governance that is very much constitutional. But in the case of Nagaland, when we talk of taxes, it could be anything. Some guy in the street just coming out of nowhere and giving you a ticket, you don't even know what you are paying for. And the government levying taxes on you, whether it's for water, whether it's for electricity, you don't know. what you know is that you have to pay. So when the CNCCI says we have to streamline the taxation system, it is not that the government of Nagaland is leaving all these taxes on us. We have got community organizations, we have got students organizations, we have got tribal hosts, and then we have got the nationalist groups levying taxes on all of us. So streamlining seems a little bit of an awkward description of the issue here, Akivi. Yes. I think all they wanted to say was that the government should check the taxes that are not legal or constitutional, at least in the context of the government of Nagaland and the government of India. Anything other than that is illegal or forced.
All right, so I mean, like, if you look at it, we had the service tax, sales tax, we had different types of taxes. But then the government of India, after Prime Minister Narendra Modi came in, he's always speaking about one tax, one nation. After which the goods and services tax were included, and then the sales tax, service tax, everything was wiped out. Well, even the government of Nagaland has been talking about one state, one tax. Right. So basically the government speaks about one tax, one state, but then the Confederation of Nagaland Chamber and Commerce Industries, they have admitted in their press conference that yes, that there is a taxation process from the militant groups too. So sir, do you think that this whole message of one tax, one state, or one tax, one nation is getting demeaned by basically what the CNCCI had to say, sir?
Yeah, definitely. Because we have to understand here that when you are a political institution, let's say you're the government of Nagaland, you have to come out with slogans that project an image of yourself as an establishment that is dependable, that pursues integrity, that pursues accountability and transparency. So you have to come up with slogans like, oh, one tax, one government, but whether it is one tax for water bill and or for transportation and for electricity, whether you make the entire system a centralized system, people who are outside the state will always levy taxes on you because they are not regulated by any government establishment. That is one thing we should remember, because the concept of one tax, one government was, I think, it was promoted way back in 2014, led by the ACAUT. And yes. I think we're paying about like what, 10,000 taxes. I don't know, you go down to the streets, the autos are being charged, you go to the vegetable vendors, they are being charged for the potatoes and the dry fish they sell. If you're a government servant, you are paying a certain percentage of your salary that is deducted in the name of some contribution to some national organization. How many taxes do you need that you are going to make it one tax? So if you have got 100 taxes going around in the district and in the state, and you have got community organizations levying taxes on you, you have got the Naga or political organizations taking taxes from you, you have got the autos, vegetable ventures, we have got 100 taxes. So if you want a one tax, one system governance in Nagaland, then how much will that tax be? So I think we have to be very careful in the way we use the language of taxation here. So the Confederation, I think I can understand that they want to streamline the whole system, but you have to remember first that the taxation is not necessarily entirely from only the government of Nagaland Akivi.
Yes.
As we were talking about it before, we are paying indirect taxes to vegetable vendors, auto rickshaws, and then we have got the Naga groups taking. So if you want to establish a system where the whole system of taxation, legal and illegal, is centralized, then you should also be asking, how much will the tax be, and will we be able to pay it if we are going to put all of these taxes together and pay it in one lump sum?
All right, so now talking about the Confederation itself, I mean, like, as an organization, I mean, in Nagaland, if you look at the political campaigns that were actually run before the Nagaland had its state assembly elections, all candidates were speaking about boosting entrepreneurship. Now, basically, as a confederation, I mean, each district has a chamber of commerce and industries regulatory body. So as CNCCI, sir, like how would you think that the CNCCI can safeguard new entrepreneurs and actually mold them into becoming successful entrepreneurs, sir?
Yeah, I think the CNCCI on its own, I think they're doing a very good job of keeping the business community protected, especially from elements that try to make money out of them. But then again, when we talk of taxation and illegal taxation in the context of Nagaland, I think the work that they're pushing forward in the agenda of let's say streamlining the taxation system or preventing non-state actors from living off their money and their earnings, I think their interest is quite limited, Akivi.
Right.
I would say, because so far we do not have organizations such as the business establishments coming out in support of citizens who are paying taxes to the non-state actors here. So I think the scope of their engagement is very limited, and that is limited only to their to the business community here. It would have been really wonderful if they had also said something in the nature of the citizens are also suffering, government employees are also suffering because of taxation. It would have been a very it would have been very convincing. But like I said before, the scope of their argument seems to be limited only to the business establishment. Yes. And of course, like, they're a business organization taking care of business people, so we can't really blame them also. But I think on their own, for the business community, I think they're doing their part. What we need here is someone who can speak for ordinary citizens, yes, people who earn 250 rupees a day as a daily wage, and who are paying taxes, many taxes, but there is no one to speak for them in this regard, Akive.
All right, so now talking about the common people and also suffering, I mean, like, if you look at it, a day-to-day common man, if he goes to a shop or a business, if the factions have already taxed them, then they increase the price of the commodity,
right,
which is available in their particular enterprise or their shops.
Right.
So, sir, don't you think that a common man is already been taxed before he can even give the tax, and then how will this stop, sir?
We need a very strong government leadership, I give you first thing, because a very strong government leadership will mean that we have got strong police establishments. These are the arms of the government that implement the vision of the government in the aspect of law and order, criminal justice systems. So I think the first thing here is if we will have a strong government, I think half of the work is done here. I think it was way back 2014. A sitting legislator, that is a member of he was a minister during that time. So this sitting legislator, and he is now an MLA even right now, he proposed in the state legislative assembly saying that the government of Nagaland should actually be paying allowances to some of the Naga political groups, So the whole idea was that you keep the Naga political groups appeased, satisfied, quiet. You also keep the students' unions and the tribal organizations in the remote areas who are charging road taxes for use of their roads, who are charging cultivation taxes, for example. To keep them occupied, you have to pay them allowances so that the public will not suffer. But the fact is that because there are no control and check system in Nagaland, the government and the police establishments are not really focused on creating a control and check system. It is the public that has to suffer. I mean, how many years are we going to shout one tax, one government? How many times do we have to write in the newspapers or report in the media channels, news channels, that we are suffering from extortion, we are being taxed, all the time, and we have to pay double the prices in the shops, because those shops have already paid taxes to these and that organizations for which they have increased their prices. How many times are we going to complain, and how long are we going to complain? I think the whole solution lies in the community leaderships and the government, and the state government and the authority to come together and devise a plan where they will use not only educative community initiatives, but also make use of the tools that the Constitution has given to the government and the police authorities to check criminal or non-state activities in the state, for example, of Nagaland, so that this way we won't really have to suffer every time someone have to pay an extra tax to an entity that is not legal, or every time they have to pay taxes to the local organizations for which we are paying higher prices to avail the services they are giving us. Then I think if there should be some kind of a system to check it, I don't think that we will be really talking about extortion or illegal taxation or exorbitant prices of vegetables and goods that we use every day are giving.
All right, so I mean, like, when we look at it, Hornbill TV had also interviewed an entrepreneur who accepted the fact that yes, this is that he was giving the tax willingly because of nation building. But sir, I mean, like, the CNCCI themselves have confirmed that there are about 18 factions now.
Yeah.
So don't you think this is practically impossible to actually survive as an entrepreneur in Nagaland, sir?
We can't. Because just a few days ago, I was there near our office at HornbillTV. I was meeting with this business person. He runs a small shop just right at the junction, and he was telling me about this guy who was selling bottled water in Nagaland. But then, unfortunately for this young business person, he could not afford the constant, regular, and extremely high taxes that the Naga political groups used to come to him demanding that he pay them. So he could no longer afford to run that business. And you know what he did? He shifted his business to Assam.
Yes.
And I'll give you another example. I had a friend who had an electronics shop just right near the State Bank of India branch at Dobinala. Yes. And he barely used to make about 13,000 or 14,000 rupees a month selling electronics. But you know what? I was told that he used to pay 50,000 every month to one of these groups as business and commercial taxes, that he could no longer even afford to pay the rent for his shop. So he closed it. So of course, we used to have 2-3 factions those days, and somehow I think we were just getting along fine. And now you tell me that we have got 12 and 18 factions, each of them levying different kinds of taxes at different degrees. So definitely I think it's a very obvious answer that I'll be giving you, Akivi. We cannot survive. What do we pay for, and what do we take home? Who will feed our parents? Who will pay for our children's school fees? Because in Nagaland, salary has not increased for the past 5 years. For the past 15 years, we have not seen an increment except for those working in the government activity.
Yes.
But if you look at the private salary packages, there are still packages that we have been using for the past 15 years. It has not increased, but the prices of potatoes and tomatoes are increasing. Pork is increasing, and now we are talking about 18 and 20 factions who are levying taxes from all of us. Now, I don't know how we will survive. Akivi, I don't have the answer. You have to go ask somebody else.
All right, now looking at another aspect of it, sir, I mean, like, we've got the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, speaking and also, celebrating the fact that India has now more than 1,000 startups, and basically India is basically the startup capital of the world. I mean, all right, all contributions are going towards India. So when will Nagaland ever give a startup which is successful? And also, don't you think that in today's time, especially in the state of Nagaland, it is very difficult for an entrepreneur to actually start something with full dedication and commitment because of all these factors that bother the entrepreneur, sir?
Yeah, but I think I was talking to a beneficiary of the Prime Minister Employment Generation Program just a few months ago, Akivi. And the first thing he told me was that although there are government incentives and government programs that try to encourage young entrepreneurs to start their business, business is more than just getting a loan, Akivi.
Yes.
You have to start infrastructure projects. You have to build your buildings, and you have to buy land. You have to set up machinery. You have to pay for water and electricity bills. You have to set up linkages with different resellers and distributors. You lose a lot of money in the process. You invest a lot of money in the process. So I think the government of India and the government of Nagaland, they have various schemes. For example, Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, Northeast Small and Medium Enterprises. We have got even the Business Association of Nagaland coming up with a loan scheme. So here the goal, the problem is not that whether we get a loan or not to start business of our own. The problem is once we have set up production, how are we going to retail it to the distributors, because those distributors are going to take your products to the public who are not able to pay for your service, Akivi.
Yes.
So that is something we have to understand. It is very difficult for entrepreneurs and business, of course, unless you are someone who has half of Dimapur in your kitty and you're taking care of all the business establishments. Unless you are someone like that, it is not easy for any entrepreneur to start businesses because of all these factors. We have got endless numbers of taxation going on from the municipal authorities, from the government, from the non-state actors to tribal and student unions. So it is difficult. It is a very difficult environment for entrepreneurs here because you have to invest more than your total project outlay. Let's say you have to invest more than the investment you're putting up in setting up a shop. So it is very difficult. It is very difficult.
All right, so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on this topic called taxation in Nagaland, and also thank you for opening the minds of our viewers as to what taxation should be, but unfortunately isn't. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Akivi.
Well, that was our associate editor, Al Nguli, who just explained to us what taxation means in the state of Nagaland. Well, he has also informed the viewers about how difficult it is for an entrepreneur to actually start something new with the environment that he is living around with. Well, he has said that the government agencies, or rather the departments that are responsible for correcting and checking all these illegal taxation, should become stronger, and only after which maybe the whole taxation policy in Nagaland could see a brighter day.